Dude. Michaela. Dude. What is this?
We're seeing more and more prescription medications and opioid-based narcotics affect our community. A large number of overdoses. Our officers are using Narcan to save people's lives on a weekly basis. I firmly believe there's not a street that we could drive up and down that someone on that street doesn't have a connection to this current ongoing problem.
Drug use, overdose, it does not matter who you are, where you come from. It doesn't matter how old you are, what color your skin is, how nice your house is, how much money you make, if you go to church or not, if your family's divorced or not. I've seen it across every demographic.
You don't take hydrocodone or nothing like that?
I do.
I think we're just in a crisis situation in our country.
Opioids, it's like there's no end, there's never going to be enough.
Like when drugs are involved, like it's never going to be okay. Never. It never will.
As a parent, you know, nobody prepares you for what to do when your child's struggling with addiction.
When people are little kids, they do not sit and say, I want to grow up to be an alcoholic or an addict. They don't. People never know when it's going to hit them. A lot of times they find out with that first hit that they take.
It's probably the scariest time in my 26-year law enforcement career right now with fentanyl.
But what are we going to do? These drugs are out on the street. How do you get it off of the street? There's just no easy answers.
Someone will say something to the effect that, you know, if I didn't know your story, I would have, you know, never known that you had that kind of a history, that past. And, you know, the way that I respond to those types of questions, like what does someone that struggles with substance use or mental health look like? I answer the question like, it looks like me, it looks like you, it looks like your mom, your dad, your grandma, your neighbor, your pastor. I was a freshman in college, and I had my wisdom teeth removed, and they gave me a prescription of oxycodone. And so that was my first real exposure to opioids, where I had my own prescription. I had it for an extended period of time, and that was where I really fell in love with the pills.
So an opioid's a painkiller. Probably the most commonly known one that people would be familiar with is hydrocodone. And then what we figured out was that pain pills worked really well for pain and made the patient not care about the fact that they were in pain. And so we kind of went into this, go see your doctor, get a prescription, and that's how we're going to deal with your chronic pain.
Once everybody thought that doctors were prescribing the pain medicines, that if the doctor prescribed it, it was okay. Of course, there's been a great deal of education and information put forth about how it is not as harmless as what we would thought.
The amount of opioids that were used dramatically increased. And as those numbers increased, we really began to see a large number of patients develop opioid use disorder, which is colloquially called addiction.
After that prescription, every time I could find the pills, I bought the pills. And the way I was able to fund this habit, because opioids on the street are very expensive, was through my scholarship money. I'm actually a quarter Native American, and they were paying for my college, which was a blessing, but I was using the excess aid that I was receiving to fund this habit. And so I didn't really have to scrounge and try to find where I was going to get them. You know, if I was able to come across them, I'd buy them, and I'd buy them in bulk, and I'd buy as many as I could find. And so I don't think I set out to, you know, start using drugs and become someone that's homeless by the end of when it was all said and done, put a needle in my arm. No, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to have fun with my friends with this drug that's been presented to me that changes the way that I feel, that I enjoy doing. But in that, you know, it becomes the center of everything that you do, and it became the center of everything that I did.
And if patients are given 7 days of opioids, just 7 days, they have a 1 in 10 chance of being on opioids in a year. And those opioids may not be written by the physician who gave them that initial prescription, but I think that really speaks to the power of opioids and the danger of opioids.
And it is all consuming. Addiction is a very difficult thing to break. It is a difficult cycle from which a person can find escape.
You know, when I opened up that prescription of oxycodone and I took that very first pill, it never came across my mind that that pill was going to turn into a syringe that I would then start putting in my body for many years until it destroyed everything in my life. But the reality of it is that's exactly what happened.